It's fight week, and this will be the breakdown for the undisputed welterweight championship title fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence "Bud" Crawford. Welcome to The Naturalist and The Fundamentalist, the undisputed world welterweight title, Part 2. Well, it's here, people. The battle for it all, the cream of the crop, in Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence "Bud" Crawford, as they meet up this Saturday, July 29th, for the undisputed bragging rights for the welterweight title. This fight has been years in the making, and the negotiations that have taken place have put this fight in a certain place within the sport of boxing that should make everyone who follows the sport take note. The fact that business can be conducted and points can be achieved, but it will require both parties being serious enough to recognize what legacy will actually mean in them coming together this time for the bragging rights of the division. So as we begin to look forward and how to break this down, how the fight may go, what the fighters' strengths and weaknesses are, we are paying close attention to what has transpired over their most recent bouts, as well as the quality of opposition that they both have faced. And as we look further and deeper into this, these men are not unalike. They are very much alike, and they vary in different ways because they are different types of men. For Spence, who happens to be a blue-collar fighter, he has a workmanlike hard hat and lunch pail approach to his fights. When he comes in, he's looking to go in and break his opponents down systematically, which is what makes him the fundamentalist in the title of this video. Fundamentally sound, keeping his hands up and going about his business in a workmanlike fashion, is contrasting to Crawford the Naturalist in this, as we look at him as a cunning, calculating, sly as a fox type fighter. That doesn't mean he doesn't have fundamentals. That doesn't mean that he doesn't bring his hard hat and lunch pail. But what it does mean is that he has more of a reactionary type disposition when it comes to facing his opponents. He will look to see where he can strike, where his advantages are, and he may even allow you to take the lead. Again, contrasting to Spence, who happens to be a tremendous aggressor with punishing body shots, and he often wears opponents down through attrition and battering and pressure on top. This is why contrasting styles of these two individuals make for such an interesting fight, because Crawford seemingly thrives within that aspect and approach to boxing. So Spence may have to be a little more careful in his endeavors going into this fight, because that's where Crawford can excel and take advantages of mistakes, which might not be mistakes that you, as the viewing public, see, but warriors who battle see mistakes and they know what they are and they wait for them. Crawford happens to be a great counterpuncher, and he definitely has deceptive punching power. You look at his size, you think about where he's come from, the lighter weight divisions, and you don't think about him having what we can define in boxing as one-punch knockout power, but he does. A lot of times it's those thin, rail-thin guys who bring this to the ring, and they're often overlooked. Tommy Hearns was overlooked when it came to those type of assessments, and people paid a terrible price for that. Another quality about both men at the championship level happens to be their chins. The chin equation factors in strongly because the ability to absorb punishment just as you're dishing it out means that you are capable of being there in the midst of someone making the mistakes that we spoke of. Sometimes taking punches happens to do with your mental approach to the sport and what you're dealing with, your fortitude, your internal constitutional makeup, who you are as a person. And we have yet to see either man challenged in that way that they have been at a deficit. We have seen them both come on and go after their opponents. For Spence, he has a tendency to fight his opponent's fight, even though they've told us time after time that he likes to do things differently and can box a number of different ways. But one of the weaknesses may be the crossing up of his footwork and his adjustment from offense to defense and back again happens to be a place where a cunning guy like a Terrence Crawford can take advantage. The footwork factor, because he likes to be planted when he's going after his opponent to place those body shots and to dig. But if you are as cunning and sly, you understand this, you make him pick his feet up where he can't plant like that. Crawford's weaknesses is his innate ability to want to get back. If he's been stunned, if he's been hit hard, if someone scored well, he has defensive lapses, and that can lead to cuts and swelling around the eyes. That's simply because he's so focused and has tunnel vision that he's looking at a certain objective, and he's willing to sacrifice something to get what he really wants ultimately in the end. Well, you can't get away with that with a fighter like Spence, because Spence is definitely going to take care of those circumstances by applying even more pressure and providing even more punishment. So the intangibles are the factors that can be ultimately determining for both parties here, and their personal motivations. Why are they doing what they do? For both men, they vary. For Spence, he wants to be undisputed. He wants to do that before moving forward in his career. Crawford has been undisputed in a division prior, but now the cherry on top is to become undisputed in 2 weight classes certifies Hall of Fame. And we've heard him speak about him being in the Hall of Fame already, but you have to think that his personal motivations are, if he becomes undisputed welterweight champion, that will shoot him into a place of consideration that he has never received, and it couldn't be taken away. and Spence being the name and the subject at that weight class, you have to respect the accomplishment. So both of them have personal motivations that place them in a place where only they can relate to what they're trying to accomplish. No one outside of who they are should try to question that, but try to act in-depthly to understand the men better. That makes this fight one to watch, for there is just a fine line between making mistakes and being successful overall. So as you look at it, those intangibles are things that you cannot put in the stat book. It's not about the size. Spence is 5'9.5" with a 72-inch reach. Crawford is 5'8" with a 74-inch reach. There's a trade-off in those extremities. Crawford happens to be 35. Spence is 33. Now, Crawford be a couple of years older and has had to come from weight classes lower. Understand this, Spence is still a growing young man, meaning that he can get up to that next weight class easier than Crawford, who is pretty much tapped out at welterweight, though he has a desire to prove to go to another weight class after this. So, size may not factor, or it may, but it's contingent upon the men individually and how they feel about the work at hand. Sometimes there is a relatable factor in a fight like this that makes it so close that you can flip a coin and find out which side that the coin lands. And on a certain night, and given a certain amount of opportunity and ability, it will all come to fruition and come to pass. When you look at these men closer, you see a more cemented viewpoint on what they're offering. I really like this matchup. I wish that it happened like 2 years ago, at least, because when the fighters begin to go through the 30s, they do slow down enough where their vulnerabilities can be exposed more. And when they're more youthful in their late 20s or right around 30, what happens is there's an ample amount of size, experience, life experience that gives us a clearer viewpoint on who they are. But this being the fight being made at the time that it's being made, it's going to be what we have to accept. And I do believe that going into this, Earl Spence is definitely the one who can come out of it awarded as a champion, as a person who has persevered and stood tall in what he had to say about his approach to his craft and his accomplishments in what he wanted to do regarding his craft. You have to take your hat off to that and respect the hell out of it. And at the end of the day, Terrence Bud Crawford, whose motivations he doesn't let be known openly, but privately, you have to understand he desires to be the man. And somehow, I feel he's going to pull this out. But it's razor thin and close. You can go with either guy. What do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, the third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know who you got in this battle of the ages, for the ages. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone remain safe.